Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Amateur Repair Time. If you didn't see last week's video, we've been working on this old Ingraham clock. I bought this at the flea market for 10 bucks. It's in pretty rough shape. Somebody spray painted parts of it. And the movement was really screwed up. It had a bent wheel on the strike side, the hour wheel, or the minute wheel, the center wheel, was pretty screwed up. This is after we've cleaned it. It had a broken gear or wheel, I guess you call it. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. See the crack? And it had a broken, would that be a collar sleeve? Let's say it's a sleeve. Had a broken sleeve. I can't see it now. I have this. I gotta go get some new glasses. I went and got new glasses, but there it is. See it? But now I'm in that hell where you have to put your glasses on and off depending on how far away the item is, and I don't want to get bifocals. I'm too young for bifocals, people. I just can't do it. I would rather look like a fool taking my glasses on and off. I don't really need them that much, if anything's within like a foot. Okay, so this was bad. Oh, well, look, it right on the dot. It is that late too. It's 12:30 at night. We just finished filming the first part of this video. So this thing was filthy. You wouldn't believe how filthy. If you're a clock person, you probably already know. You've probably done worse, but it was filthy. So I was able to take it all apart, put it in the ultrasonic cleaner. We put 4 bushings on it, which was in the fourth wheel on the time side, both sides, the front and back plate, and then the escape wheel, front and back plate. So we did those 4 pivots. And this is amateur repair time, so I'm not the greatest at it. But as you can see, the thing seems to be running pretty good. The strike even works. And it had the strike wheel was bent and had a bent tooth. And I was able to bend it back, get it straight, and it's working great. I said the strike wheel. It was the governor wheel on the strike side. Okay, so today I'm just going to clean it up and we're going to swap out the glass. This glass is horrible. Look at this. This is actually cracked. And there's like a piece of cardboard or wood or something. I think it's wood that they've glued in or nailed in or something. And then they painted the other side trying to mimic it. But that's right where the cut is. I mean, the break is. So, yeah. I love the swing on that, though. Look at that. That's got a nice, I guess that's called amplitude. But that thing's a tick-tocker, isn't it? And I love it. Little ugly, but as you can see, with a new glass and cleaning it up a little bit, it's going to look a lot better. I wish they hadn't spray painted whatever they spray painted on it, but whatever. You know, it's a $10 clock. What can you expect? Paid 10 bucks for it. And here is the face. We're not going to do much with it. Again, I wish they hadn't painted the rim, but it was probably in horrible shape. The whole back of the cabinet had fallen off too, which I don't know if it was because the spring exploded or if they just were really rough with it. We also re-glued these things back where they go and re-nailed the bottom and put the back on and all that. If you didn't see that video, you might want to check it out. It was really fun. And it ended with us getting the thing ticking and talking somewhat in beat. Okay, so let me clean it up a little bit, and I guess we're ready to mess around with the glass. So I think I'll just remove that door because it's trying to fall off anyway. It's got little nails holding it on, and every time you lay it down, if you open up the door, it about pulls the door off, like it's trying to take the hinges out. So let's lay it down and see if we can remove the door. All right, so I'm taking the trim off. There are originally these things had little pieces of wood just nailed to the side to hold the glass in. And so some of those are still in. But down here they've done some real trick stuff here with this piece of wood. And they've got just a ton of nails nailed in here with no heads on them. But what I'm doing is grab them with a pair of pliers. And then if you hit the side of the pair of pliers with a little hammer, it'll just pop them right out. All right, so I got it out. Check this out. If you look really close, you can see the remnants of the gold. So it originally had these things. I think these are called spandrels. So it did originally have some kind of design with a spandrel. See the gold? This is probably the original glass, and it was just all screwed up, and so somebody just put paint on it. And, you know, they did the best they could. I'm not mad at them. This thing has seen some stuff, but that's some of the gold, you know, that was on it. I wish I could see like a stain or something on it where you could tell what the original design was. Like, does it have that chain thing that we were looking at? That bamboo looking thing? I can't see anything, so it didn't, I don't think it stained it. But if you look, you know, the design is on the back. So if you look, whatever it is, it had something that went up the right side to about there, which isn't really all that far. Right, so it stops about right there. So it was kind of low on the right side. Yeah, I can't tell. Who knows? And the other part, this part was just a piece of wood that they had cut to fit. And you can see there's a little bit of gold there. But what that is the remnants of the gold. Well, I don't know. I was about to say. Yeah, I don't know. Because it should be on the back. I don't know, folks. We're trying to figure out something that doesn't really matter, but it's interesting to me. Okay, so that's that. I have gotten in the new piece of glass, but it's too big. And it features a design that has to be centered around the dial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mount the dial back in carefully, temporarily, so we can get some measurements and stuff and figure out where we need to put our glass. All right, so I temporarily mounted it back on there, dial and the door. And here is our glass. Just needs a little cutting, that's all. Okay, so I'm gonna carefully try to measure as best I can to where, you know, the dial is gonna be centered in this area. A little bit tricky, but I don't know that there's really a perfect way to do that. I'm just gonna have to do a bunch of measurements and get it the best I can. If it's off, it's off, but I'll do the best I can. All right, so I've drawn it all out exactly how I think it should be, and I'm using a straight edge and a little glass cutter. The trick to this is to put a little bit of oil on it. If you put just a little bit of oil on the line, for whatever reason, it'll cut pretty good and it'll snap pretty good. And of course I'm wearing gloves. But I just hate doing this because this thing's $18. If I break this, I'm at $18. I don't like that. If it was just a piece of glass this size, is like $4. And then if you could cut it, break a couple of them, and then put the logo back on it, and you could screw up 3 times and still be, you know, at $17 or whatever. Yeah. Okay, so I'm a little nervous. All right, final cut. 3 of them worked. Please, Mr. Glass, don't break. Please, Mr. Glass, don't break on me. Please, Mr. Glass, don't break on me. Well, it actually cooperated. It let me cut all 4 sides. I cut the bottom piece first because it was the smallest. It was only that big. And it snapped right off. I couldn't believe it. So I laid it out flat on an edge and then with the gloves on, just right at the end, started trying to mess with it, and psh, it broke right off clean. And then I did the other end because, you know, I was trying to shorten the length of the break. So like if you did that one first from here to here all the way down, that's a little harder to break clean. So it's easier to break these. So I did them first, which made this shorter, and then did the sides, and it worked. Pretty cool. I have a grandfather clock that I am going to be doing a video on that I have to do some glass for too. So that's coming up soon. Could be that I'm already working on it, but you know. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So there's not a ton left. You know, I want to, you know, clean it, of course. But we're ready to put the hands on it. You know, I need to take the movement back out though to get my spring retainers off of it. So I got to do that and then put the hands on it, and then we'll watch it a while and see how fast or how slow it's running. It's been running for 2 days like this, so it's pretty cool. Tick tock. It looks a heck of a lot better with that, with the proper glass on it. And I don't even think that's the one it's supposed to be, but it's pretty good. Look at that. I got it lined up pretty good too. I like the worn look on the dial. That doesn't bother me at all. If it's crazy worn where you can't even read it, yeah, okay. But it worn like this, I just think gives it character. I mean, obviously the whole thing's worn. You could probably put a bunch of paint stripper on it and clean it up a little bit, but you know, what are you doing? You know, this is the story that somebody beat it up at the flea market. That's the story. Somebody spray painted it. That's the story. If it was just god awful where they spray painted part of it blue or something, I'd do something about it, but I'm just going to leave it how it is. All right, so I got the hands on it, and it's been keeping pretty good time. It's a little bit slow, so I was able to lift the pendulum up higher to speed it up a little bit, which is actually good because it gets it up closer to that little window in the glass, so you can see the pendulum a little bit better, and it's almost centered. So I'm happy with it. Very cool. Oh, and I took the movement out, and I got my little holders out. If you didn't see the previous video, you put those on the springs so that they you can remove them and play with them. So yeah, I'm real happy with that. So I paid $10 for it, and then it needed that center arbor, that center wheel. So I would say that's worth about $5. From time to time, I'll get a box of parts somewhere. I'll buy them on eBay or something. And, I probably don't even have $5 in it, but we'll say it's worth $5. I think that's fair. And then the glass was $18. I ordered some other stuff too, so the shipping wasn't really anything, but maybe we'll say $20. So $20 and $10 and $5. So $35. And then the only other, just a little tiny bit of oil, and I put the 2 bushings in it, or 4 bushings in it. So 4 bushings are probably, what, $2. So $35. So I'm in at about $40 maybe total. Probably not even quite that. And it's worn, and it's been spray painted, and it's not a perfect example of this clock, but it sure is running good. Another thing I like about this one is the amplitude. I think I mentioned that earlier. Just how far it's swinging that pendulum. I've had some before that they just barely move. This one up here, it's got a problem with its hour hand. Whenever I redid that, the hour snail, or whatever that's called, inside of it is made of plastic, and the snout of it was all screwed up. This is like a 70s clock. It's just it's a cheaper thing that they put in this big old case. I like the big case. Thought that was pretty cool. I need to, one of these days, watch that video again, figure out what that plastic part was, and keep my eye out for one of those, because what happens is the hour hand doesn't attach to it very well, and it'll slip off of that plastic piece. The snout of it is all screwed up. It keeps good time and works well, but I say that, but it's slow. I guess it keeps good time. Obviously the hour's off, but the minute's off too. This one is correct. But see how the amplitude is very slight on that? Now, different ones do different things. It just depends on the manufacturer and how the movement's designed. But that one, it just barely moves. And so one thing I've noticed messing with these is to get that thing to really swing, the thing needs to be pretty tight. You need all of the bushings to be pretty tight, and for it to just have plenty of power. And then there's a strange little thing. And if you watched whenever we were messing with the escapement, the spring is actually, the pendulum isn't really moving the escape wheel. The spring is moving the escape wheel. The pendulum is allowing the power to escape through the escape wheel, right? But all it's doing, what the pendulum is doing is setting the time of it. The spring is what's actually driving it. So what that means is, the spring is actually pushing the pendulum. So like when those teeth, they're on that wheel, when it swings to one side with the inertia, what happens is this tooth slips off the tooth, and it allows that escape wheel to turn one tooth, right? And then when it gets up this high, when it goes back, right when it gets to about the center line, that tooth behind it actually pushes the pendulum. So it's not that the pendulum is just swinging like this. It's actually being pushed. If you remember riding a swing when you were a kid and somebody gave you a push, and you would come back down, and right when you get to the bottom, they'd jump behind you and push you again, and how that inertia would swing you up. Or maybe you remember doing that with your own kids. That's essentially what's going on with these pendulums. So to get it to swing real nice like that, you've got to have it all pretty tight. You've got to have all of the bushings pretty tight. Now, if the bushings are sloppy, the thing will usually still run unless something's broken. This one up here was like that. It was one of the first ones I did, and it's a newer movement, and it's not a really nice movement. I'm not trying to talk too bad about it because it's on the wall working right now, but it's not too nice of a movement. It's actually, I think, a cuckoo clock movement. It's just a little tiny one. Compared to the size of the case. You can tell by the winding arbors. See the little holes? See how close they are to the center shaft? That shows you the size of the clock. It's not that big. Look at this one next to it, this beautiful Ansonia, whatever, however you pronounce it. See how the winding arbors are wider? Because that's like a full-size movement, more like this one, You can see how the triangle created by the hands and the winding arbors is a big wide triangle, and on that one you can see it's much smaller. It's just a much smaller movement. So if they're kind of worn and they're sloppy, you will get two things happening. One, you'll get that where you don't have hardly any amplitude, which is kind of boring. This looks cool when it's pat, 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 I've got an Ansonia Blackbird over there that is a tick-tocker. That thing swings wide, And the Seth Thomas, that one you're hearing right now, is a New Haven, and it swings pretty wide. So whenever they're tight, they swing like this, and this is kind of what you want. So I found that out. And then the other thing that it'll do if it's worn is it will actually speed the clock up. If it's dirty, it'll slow it down. If it's worn, it'll speed it up. So if the bushings are worn, worse than this one was, it causes this problem with the escapement where it kind of moves away from the verge, and it's just easier for the escapement. If you can imagine that escapement wheel being held in place by the bushing that it's in, and then that verge, usually nobody's moving the verge, it just sits where it is. That's clicking back and forth on the wheel. We're hearing it right now on that one over there. Right? As it's doing that, if that escapement wheel can move around, it lets that verge slip by more often. It just it, if you think about, this has to move way over here to slip past that gear. And then it has to move back to slip past that gear, and back and back. It takes it a little while to do that, right? If it only has to move just barely, it will speed up the clock, right? So if that escapement wheel is able to move out of the way of that verge so that the verge can move quicker, it'll speed it up. Now, if it's dirty, what you get is there's no power to move the pendulum, and so the thing, it just moves slow because everything's slow and there's just not a lot of gear power to drive everything. I've been watching a gentleman here on YouTube named J.R. Clocker, Jim. I think it's Jim. Yeah, Jim. His channel on YouTube, he runs a clock shop, and he's just an old school clock guy, and so he's bought out a bunch of clocks and stuff. And it's a fascinating show. He sells on eBay too. He's a big eBay seller, and he's done a whole bunch of videos working on these. And he's always talking about the mainsprings. He swaps the mainsprings a lot, and I don't know if that affects the amplitude at all. But what he's mentioned is that they get set. So a new spring is very strong, and it will try to expand. I mean, it'll expand way out. You saw this one was sticking out of the side of the cabinet when we started, at least on the last video. You didn't see it on this one. I guess most of them will do that, but they get kind of set where they're at. So if they literally sit for a long time wound up, they kind of get trained to that. It's kind of like training your hair. Have you ever had your hair trained a certain way? If you comb it the same way all the time, eventually it just kind of lays that way. Right? Your hair's trained. I heard about that when I was a teenager. The springs kind of do that. They get set where they're going to stay kind of how they are. So yeah, you can still wind them up and make them tighter, but they're only going to get so big. So in other words, they only have so much power in them. And so he's said before that it will shorten the amount of time that the clock will run. If that's the only trade-off, I don't really care to trade any, to change any mainsprings. But I wonder if the amplitude has anything to do with that. I don't know. I guess if the spring was really weak, it wouldn't be able to push that thing like it's supposed to. But I'm not sure about that. So that's something else that we'll have to look into. But there you go, folks. This is one of my favorite ones that I've done, I think. I don't know why. I like the look of it. I like that it's kind of beat all to hell, and we got it to work pretty good. And I like that we spent just slightly too much money to buy a glass for it than maybe some people would have, but it kind of deserved a new glass, so we went ahead and did it. And then I like that the glass cooperated and didn't break on me. And the thing wants to work. I love when they want to work. Do you know about that concept? Have you seen that concept? Sometimes when you're working on something, it fights you the whole damn way. It just doesn't want to work. Like it wants to die, right? And of course I know they're not sentient beings, but it just seems like sometimes certain things, and I guess it's in the design, but certain things, they're not necessarily easy to work on, but they tend towards their purpose, right? So for instance, this is it's an Ingraham clock movement. Well, what is the purpose of that? It's just to wag that pendulum and to move those gears and to turn those hands. And this thing was horribly abused. I mean, it's been spray painted. That abused, horribly abused. And when we got in there, it sprayed oil all over it. If you didn't see the last video, you missed out. It looked like they had poured motor oil all over the movement. It's just unbelievable. And it popped out of the side of the cabinet and everything. But whenever we got in there and cleaned it up a little bit, what we found was, there was a bent gear too. What we found was there were a bunch of gears that were still in fine shape because they had been made right. The plates were still fine. There was a few bushings that, were worn a little bit, but they took new bushings just fine. I filed it down a little bit so the pinions went in. I used a little chamfering tool make it where the pivots fit well and everything. And, a smoothing broach, and kind of, made it a little bigger so that everything fit right. And then we put it back together, and this is what we got. And then, every little part of it that's been abused, when you mess with it a little bit, like this little latch here is just a simple little thing, right? But, I bent it back a little bit. That was the latch, ding, holding it in place like it's supposed to. It's just every little thing kind of cooperated and did what it's supposed to do because it wants to be a clock, because that's all that it is a clock. You know what I mean? So, 20 people at the factory probably touched this thing when they were making it, and they were all trying to make it a clock. So it's not that this thing has a soul or a spirit to it, but the people that built it did, right? So if the guy stamping the plates for the sides, if that guy was particular about his job, he did it right, and it was a nice quality product. And the same thing with whoever made the hands, and whoever fit the dial on, and whoever put the hinges on the door and everything. They did a good job, and here it is 100 years later, and the thing, with a little help, even after it's been horribly abused, still works just fine. That's incredible. So I just really like them. I would encourage you, if you've watched this video this far, you're probably a fan of clocks, or you probably would have bailed a long time ago. It might be a hobby you might want to think about getting into, because it's cheap. These things are inexpensive, and the parts are pretty cheap. The glass was a little more than I wanted to pay, but if you think about it, a piece of glass with a design on it, and it's a reproduction of an old design. I mean, it's worth $17. I just was bitching about having to pay it because I was afraid I was going to break the glass. By the way, I bought a bunch more on eBay earlier. There was a guy on there who put some up. I bought 8 for 30, 36, less than $50. I got 8 of them. Most of them are silver, but there was one gold one. But and they were all that same size where they're too big. But of course that's good because you can put it in any case. They're all kind of a little different. So I got a good deal on that. But anyway, it's an interesting hobby to get into because there's parts everywhere. It's inexpensive. Now, if you're trying to do it to make money, you're just wasting your time. You're not going to make any money doing it. But it's really fun to get one that's all beat up and bring it back, and the thing cooperates and starts working. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Same thing with the radios and stuff. The radios are a little more expensive, just because they're a little more useful, honestly. That Silvertone over there that we fixed up, if I plug that thing in, it's going to pick up somebody talking on the radio right now, so it's still useful. The clocks, yeah, they tell time, but we've got so many ways to tell time now. They're not super useful anymore. But these particular ones, it's a great American design, built here in America in a factory in America. I just think it's really cool. And of course, there's even greater Swiss ones and stuff. And the British tall case clocks are famous and all that. So I'm not. It's not just because it's American, but I'm American. So I like that this was, built in Connecticut or Chicago or wherever it came from. Ingraham. I don't know where they were made. Connecticut, maybe. But it's just a cool hobby. You can get parts cheap. I've watched several of my other hobbies go up in price. When one of the first ones that I started was doing the arcade games, of course, and we still do that. But the prices just went nuts. We used to go to auctions and you could buy like a Miss Pac-Man that didn't work for $25. And it's just how things work. I've been to auctions and bought working games for 20 cents. Now that sounds crazy, but it's the absolute truth. I swear to God, it's the truth. I bought 5 games for $1 one time at an auction, and some of them worked. And so that's just how it used to be. So it used to be you could get things cheap, and it was more fun, and we sell them, so you'd think I'd be happy that the prices all went up. Well, we made a lot of money off of them, but it gets to the point where it's almost embarrassing that this game is worth $3,000 or whatever, And then I kind of got into pinball machines a little bit too. Same story. The pinball machines have went nuts, and I'm sure you all know that. But I'm kind of happy that the electromechanical pinball machines haven't completely done that. You can still get some of them inexpensively. But same thing. So I've watched that where they went crazy. I've seen Adam's Family pinball machines advertised for sale before for like $2,500. That's where we used to be, right? So the prices have went up like 4 times what they were. Now you'd be lucky to find one for 9 or 10. I think, hell, it may have gotten worse since the last time I looked into it. And that's like the most popular pinball machine ever. Right? So there's a lot of them, $10,000. And the new machines now are $10,000 or $11,000. So it's just a crazy hobby to get into. This hobby, on the other hand, it's going the other way. The prices are going through the floor. So lately I've picked up a couple grandfather clocks. I mentioned that earlier. And, you know, there was a time when a grandfather clock would cost you $4,000 or $5,000. Like a Seth Thomas grandfather clock in the 80s was $4,000. Well, you know, you can buy them now for $50 if you look around. Same clock. And a lot of times they haven't been running for a long time. They've been just sitting somewhere, and you oil them and they work fine. And they're just as nice as they were. Usually people took good care of them. So it's an interesting hobby to see. The only reason you're going to get into it is because you enjoy working on the things, or you just like the thing, you like collecting it, you like looking at it, you like playing around with it. And so it's the opportunity to own something that at one point was expensive, but now is, you know, very affordable for anybody. These things, I've got a friend, Rodney, who watches some of our videos. He's a pinball guy. Rodney was telling me that he called these things rooster head clocks because of the thing on the top, you know, rooster head clocks. And I think he said he had 100 of them at one time. Back in, you know, like the 80s and the early 90s, it was very popular to collect these things, but the bottom has fallen out. So a good condition one, you know, that works great, that looks really nice, is really kind of worth $100, if you can get somebody to give you that for it. So it's just an interesting hobby, because if you get into it, you're not going to spend a lot of money, but you're also not going to make any money. So I'll leave it at that. Oh, I've almost talked long enough that the chime went on. But we'll leave before that. We don't have 5 minutes left to talk. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. If you haven't seen our videos where we worked on some of the other ones, I'll put one up here. I'm looking at one over here, this New Haven Clock Company one that's running really well. Maybe I'll show you that one next so you can check it out. I'll put that video up here. But leave your comments below and let me know what you think about the... Whoop, that was the New Haven Clock Company one chiming its words of approval, or its gong of approval. So I'll put that video up here. Leave your comments below on what you think about clocks. If you watch this video this far, you're probably into them at least somewhat. And we will see you on the next one. This is Amateur Repair Time.